uko kuno aho pano mamuona kere nai anovura meso anovura nzeve anokaya marigi Doti como usasai
Gamba kwe uyo anotara mari anogaya mari garai mamunzwa paninyaya pano zvamunoda kunzwa zvinotaurwa pano madiko kumunzwa mugova ne.com gamba kwe vanogaya mari vanotara mari vanoziya mari gamba kwe vanotara feya kuti
Right, 30 August 2022, and today I'm joined by my usual guest from Botswana, Dr. Feddious Mutenheri. How are you, Doc?
I'm very well, Gambakwe. How are you? And very good evening to our viewers.
Fantastic. So this week I was in Zimbabwe. In fact, I spent the weekend in Zimbabwe, and I just came back. And during my time in Zimbabwe, Nelson Chamisa was in Kariba, and also there was the by-election in Gokwe. You saw these events of this past weekend. I want us to quickly discuss this, and I want us to quickly look at how Chamisa is doing in the rural areas. Did you see the outcome in Gokwe, Doc?
Oh, thank you very much for that, Gambakwe. And very interesting topic we are discussing, except always I don't agree with the way you put your headlines. But Gambakwe, probably if you may indulge me, allow me to comment. You know, last week there was an issue, obviously, we were supposed to discuss about it. And I really feel I want to say something about it, about the doctor, whether we call a famous or infamous Dr. Poppy Ramatuba, who went viral because of her statements and probably perhaps one can say, you know, her words which others viewed as savory, others unsavory, actually, to a patient in a hospital. It was quite, for me, it was quite a heartbreaking scene there. But at the same time, I found it, while it was heartbreaking, I found it quite politically revealing. Heartbreaking in that that woman, you know, the way she spoke to another woman, for me, I just took it as us Africans having lost our compass. But again, a woman speaking to another woman who was on a bed for an operation, for that matter, I wondered what had become of us as Africans. But secondly, it was what looked like an unethical conduct right in front of junior nurses in that hospital. And, you know, the scenes around her reminded me of what happened when Elvis Nyati was being cold-bloodedly murdered some few months ago, in which people were ululating, you know, laughing and giggling. It is exactly what those nurses around that doctor were doing when that woman was being dressed down. But what struck to me was the predicament of Zimbabweans out here, that people become helpless because they are running away from a very, very you know, sorry situation back home, and they try to seek for, you know, for help out there, and here is what they meet. very cold. I mean, that was a minister of government, for Christ's sake, and she had to do that. Okay, that is the heartbreaking part, and those are some takeaways. But I think politically revealing in that I thought that woman is sort of you know, a proxy of the powers up there, and probably her duty was to nudge or to prod, if you would like, you know, a conversation that Zimbabwe has to have with South Africans. Zimbabwe has to have with the regional neighbors such as Zambia, such as Botswana, Namibia, and others. And I think with how this issue is developing, it shows that that woman was a proxy, because today, if what we hear is anything to go by, that President Cyril Ramaphosa supports what she did, it shows that South Africa has finally realized that what we have always said, that the Zimbabwean crisis is also a regional crisis, and particularly a South African crisis. That the problem that we find ourselves in, if South Africa doesn't come to the fore, you know, then it will deepen, and it is beginning to show. But as ZANU-PF would have it, I mean, of course, very condescending, very arrogant. You can already hear what they are saying, especially through their spokesman, Christopher Muchangwa. You can see that they do not have regrets, and they are not at all in a position to correct the situation in Zimbabwe. But why am I saying this? Why did I decide to start with this, Gambakwe? Our topic today is totally linked and connected with all this, in that what is happening to our fellow Zimbabweans, to our compatriots in the foreign lands, it is as a result of what is happening back home. And especially if you look at political contestation. Right now, you asked me, did I see what happened in Gokwe, what happened in Kariba, and all that stuff? Yes, everyone saw it. We saw, again, an escalation of violence. We saw an escalation of political intolerance, particularly by the ruling ZANU-PF. We also saw the encouragement by the state of that violence, because they do nothing when those things happen. They do not take action when that happens. So you can only think that what they are encouraging is that intolerance, that violence. And I want actually to applaud Advocate Nelson Chamisa and his party for always preaching the gospel of peace, but not only preaching it, but being seen to be doing it, because wherever they go, even when they are provoked, they still maintain, you know, that maturity. This is a young party, but it is showing direction of how politics should be done. Political contestation should not be about blood spilling. It should not be about punching each other in the face. It should be a contest of ideas, a contest of policy, who has superior policy than others. And they've done that so consistently, and they should be applauded amidst a political party whose fortunes have been waning ever since. And the only tool they have is violence. And therefore, we see them putting laws for others and laws, different laws for other people. So that's why Gokwe was disrupted. Gokwe Kabuyuni was disrupted in terms of their political rally, and we saw journalists being beaten, you know, brutally. Some even having to suffer the consequence of being removed their teeth, and obviously that the result there. While it was good for the CCC that in terms of numbers from previous election, they showed that, you know, if given a chance by the state to participate as constitutionally is their right, they have a big chance. They have all the numbers to support them. And Kariba actually is one example. We saw how Advocate Nelson Chamisa, is loved as the hope. The Triple C is loved as the hope, to extricate Zimbabwe from this predicament, which we see. I was watching some videos, Gambakwe, as I conclude my opening statement, of how even South African politicians are allowing vigilantes to go around streets, around towns, announcing unashamedly that foreigners, as they are calling us, should leave South Africa for South Africans. And I was just wondering, what has happened to us as Africans? Have we taken hook, line, and sinker these artificial borders, political borders created by the colonialists, and have allowed that division which they created in 1884, 1885 to divide us today? South Africans saying, this is our country, this is our land, go back to your country. Have they forgotten that we are all Africans? Where is that Africanness that caused us to win the liberation struggle? South Africans themselves could not have won the liberation struggle without the indulgence of all of us. Their leaders, go to the speeches by Thabo Mbeki. They were in Zimbabwe, and they were helped. Most leaders were in Zambia, in Namibia, in various places in which they were assisted, because the struggle was for all of us. What has become of us today that we now look at each other like that? But it is such liberation movements such as ZANU-PF which are continuously encouraging violent contestation of elections, which was actually the crux of the liberation struggle, that there should be democracy, one man, one vote. But we see them. What are they doing? They are trampling on it. And for them, it is the basis for them staying in power. And it's very, very sad. Kambako.
Okay, Doc, let me say, I don't want to go into this topic right now of the South Africans. I think the future is for us to go home. And I am going to be leading the way. As I said to you, I've got projects in Kariba right now. We're adding new projects this coming week. I'm not concerned about what's happening in South Africa. And honestly, I said this before. Before the lockdown, I told Zimbabweans here that there is no way that you can live in this country in these large numbers. So to me, this is just something that I live with on a daily basis. And we have to get over it. Get over it as Zimbabweans. And so let's park it. I hear opinions about it, but there's really not much we can do about it. It's done. It's written, it's signed. There will be no Zimbabweans here in these large numbers in the next 10 years. We are basically just on our last days here. And this is where it's important for us to make sure that we fix our politics. And while we're at that, I want us to look at the main opposition party, the CCC. They are not doing well in the raw areas. They, given the circumstances in Zimbabwe, you would expect them to win elections, to pull voters, like people come and vote for them. But it's not happening. Chamisa is a very popular person. If you go to Harare, in fact, people love Chamisa so much that when they see me in the street, they come and cry and say, Gambakwe used to support Chamisa. Why do you support, why don't you support him anymore? Why do you criticize him so much? I'm talking about literally everywhere I go. This happens. This weekend I was in Zimbabwe. People were asking me, Why is it that you don't support Chamisa? People love Chamisa in the cities, but in the countryside, it's not the same. Let's dig deeper, Doc. What's happening there? Why is Chamisa failing to attract the vote of the rural people?
Okay. Gambakwe, it is easy actually to say what you are saying, but I would firstly probably let me say this, Gambakwe, to you truly, that it is irresponsible journalism to even think that Chamisa does not or is failing to penetrate rural areas. Probably one could say by his way of by way of him failing to have a strategy, or that it is a failure on his part. That should not even be the top. Should not be the topic. The topic should be, why is ZANU-PF refusing opposition, particularly the CCC, to carry out their activities in rural areas? But anyway, that again, I mean, that is a serious issue there. But you know, ZANU-PF, let me tell you, has underdeveloped rural spaces over the years for political reasons, for political gain. No infrastructural development, no healthcare facilities, no proper education there. You know, they go there, ZANU-PF people, to pretend that they are the ones who are going to help the people in rural areas. What do? They bring food handouts, which they use for political reasons, you know, and then try to say, to sell that outdated mantra that the land is about to be sold to white people. And it's sad because poverty in rural areas has been used as a tool by ZANU-PF. You know, under President Mugabe, he was a political scientist and surrounded by the likes of Jonathan Moyo and them. They used that political science kind of thing, that they know that poverty is actually a tool used by politicians, particularly those that really do not have democracy at heart, to manipulate those who are in poverty. Because those who are in poverty normally get engulfed by what is called the Stockholm syndrome, in which they think their abusers are their helpers, when particularly they come to pretend and say they are helping them. Now, that's the first thing. So because ZANU-PF has not developed those areas, and the people there do not have any proper education that you find in urban areas, they do not have access to the communication that the urban voter has. It is easy for ZANU-PF to then manipulate those people. But not only that, secondly, rural areas are the hotspots of ZANU-PF violence. Short sleeve, long sleeved. We have seen it in 2008, you know, and under such violence, how can even the voter decide to vote against ZANU-PF? That's what we have seen over the years. Not only that, Gambakwe, we know that in rural areas, that is the cornerstone of ZANU-PF's rigging. How does ZANU-PF rig in those spaces? This is where they tout they use the chiefs, the headmen, you know, to frog march voters under such a cloud of fear and violence to go and vote for ZANU-PF. And we know that. We have seen with Jabulani Swanda, when they were war veterans, they did that. I experienced it. My family experienced it in Mashingo, and I know it when gun-toting war veterans frog march you to a polling station to vote, and they even tell you, if you do not vote, we will see you after the election, because no matter what happens, no other party is going to rule this country. That is the nature of rural areas, Gambakwe. Food handouts, as I've said, are used to then cow these voters to say, if you do not, because there is hunger. Zimbabwe right now, according to the statistics, more than 5 million people face starvation. And when ZANU-PF now brings these handouts, these people have nowhere to go. That is the situation in rural areas, Gambakwe. The assisted voters, no urban voters are going to be assisted, but We know the old people in rural areas are intimidated and are frog marched and told that, hey, you can't vote for yourself, then you have to be assisted. And they are cowed into doing that. You know, that is the nature of ZANU-PF rigging. And it's not about Nelson Chamisa. It now goes back to the reforms that are supposed to be carried out, Gambakwe. It goes down to the playing field of the election. It goes down to what actually Advocate Nelson Chamisa was saying a few days ago, that I think this is the time for us to have the United Nations to come and look at how we hold our elections and be the monitor there and be the supervisor there, because all the ingredients of an unfree and an unfair election exist in Zimbabwe. And ZANU-PF reject that because they know that if there is going to be any free and fair election, they stand no chance against a very young, vibrant, and relevant political party for this age, which is CCC. And I say this with no apology, Kambakwe. Advocate Nelson Chamisa or CCC is not failing to penetrate rural areas. But you also realize that with their kind of programs, they have made headway into the rural areas. In fact, they are loved more in rural areas than what they think. And I think 2023 would be an eye-opener for all of us.
Okay, Doc, let us summarize this thing. I want us to wrap up. And I want to wrap up, as I usually do, with my opinions. And then I will give you a chance to conclude.
Okay.
I think Nelson Chamisa and his leadership team at CCC, they don't understand something. They don't understand that an election is a contest, an internal contest, and they're trying to internationalize a local election. So they want United Nations, they want monitors and so forth. I think that period is over, where elections were adjudicated by outsiders. And I think that is where they're making a big mistake. So what they've attempted to do is to bring international attention on what they call violence. And I think they misunderstand what the United Nations can do and why it can do it. When you talk of violence here in South Africa, no less than 25 council candidates were killed in the last elections. I'm not talking about members. I'm talking about contestants, people who are contesting in primary elections and in actual elections. If you look at places like Kenya, right now there's a contest. So an election, you cannot expect the election to be perfect. However, if you want to win, you overwhelm the opponent. The way ZANU-PF overwhelmed MDC Alliance in 2018. In Parliament right now, ZANU-PF has got a majority. The problem that I see with Chamisa's party, CCC, is lack of what I can call guts. They are not brave enough. And tomorrow, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take another video from Prophet Chiwenga, Apostle Chiwenga, and we're going to unpack it. They think that an outsider is going to come and make them win. And then when they win, ZANU-PF is just going to walk away. And I think that is the mistake that they make. I don't even doubt that ZANU-PF has got the capacity to rule the country. But I doubt very much that Chamisa and his party has got the capacity to rule. Regardless of my personal preferences or my personal feelings about Chamisa, I don't think he can right now jump and become the president of Zimbabwe, and then he can get ministers. And there's a lot of complication that they don't understand as CCC, which is why they don't make it in the rural areas. If you look at Kariba is not a rural area. It's a very modern environment. If you look at Gokwe is quite modern. It's got a lot of infrastructure and farming taking place there. And as we go deeper and deeper in the rural areas, the strategies of CCC are failing to work. And my opinion is that they need to relook at those strategies, and they need to stop this looking at South Africa Zambia or whatever, the United Nations to come and help. I think, in my opinion, this is where they're getting it wrong. Doc, conclude for us. Give us your final word on this. And obviously, you've heard my opinions on it. What should be done here? And the issues I want us to look at, obviously, are things like the candidates, quality of the candidates. Did you see the candidate that they fielded in Gokwe?
Okay, we'll come to that. If we have to, because Gabakwe, we cannot jump up and down. And let me tell you, you talk about political contest, and you want to our viewers to think that it is Triple C that does not understand political contest. Then that is wrong. In what is political contest? Political contest is nowhere, is nothing close to where one player chooses the referee and is the adjudicator of who wins that game. No, it has to be, there has to be neutrality somewhere, and if that neutrality is not there, and all players should be treated equally and fairly. In Zimbabwe, that does not exist. Why do I say so? Where state institutions, which are constitutionally, given to protect this contest, are becoming players themselves. ZEC, the police, we see how they impartially, they partially execute their duties. We have seen the army at times being involved. We have seen, relatives of, clear, very close relatives of political contestants being staffed in ZEC. ZEC alone has Mangwana, he has got the vice president's daughter in there, and a lot. And you want to tell us to lecture us about contestation? No, you can't. Then you come to Gokwe. You are talking about Gokwe. Gambakwe, I taught at Gokwe Nembudzia. Let me tell you about Gokwe Nembudzia. And during some of the hottest political contestations in 2000 and 2006, that is after the 2005 election, I was at Gokwe Nembudzia High School. That's where I was best. Gambakwe, I will tell you, and this I'm not saying it out of conjecture. There were political killings. We woke up to, it was said, I was young then, and Gokwe Nembudzia was the center. These were Jajenas, and I could talk of other names that were operating right there at Gokwe Nembudzia, and who would be slaughtering cows there, doing their political activities under such a cloud of fear-mongering and violence.
Okay, Doc, can I stop you, Doc?
Wait,
can I stop
no,
you?
no,
Can
no,
I
no,
ask
no,
you?
You're speaking.
No, I want to focus the discussion.
I want to tell you this from an experience. So what I'm trying to get at is that I know, Gambakwe, when you talk of a political contest and you go to a place like Gokwe, unless you have been there, you won't understand what fear-mongering violence can do. I left that place after a year so scared. That's why sometimes, that's what actually shaped some of my political views, to say, how do even human beings treat each other like that? There were families which were known to be murdering families because they belonged to the ruling ZANU-PF.
Yeah, but Doc, you're talking of something that happened in 2008, and we're talking about the election in 2023. That is where the CCC is missing it, Doc.
Why do you take umbrage at this? Listen to this. I'm telling you an experience, because obviously this has been a continuation of these political activities that we have seen. Gokwe Kabuyuni, I know Gokwe Kabuyuni. I know Gokwe Center. These are places we used to go, and I know the kind of violence. When Advocate Nelson Chamisa talks about the kind of violence that he was refused to penetrate that area, I know what kind of situation he faced, because I have been there, I've lived there. So, Gambakwe, when we talk about bringing in the United Nations, or the SADC or the African Union is not, it's not unconstitutional. It's not something out of this world. It is actually something that is a norm. And actually, I'm happy that earlier today, I heard that one of the United Nations actually officials talked to this to this issue, that the continuous imprisonment and violence in Zimbabwe makes it just so impossible for Zimbabwe to hold a free and fair election. And it is exactly that which is happening, which is destabilizing the region, which I was referring to in my opening remarks. And therefore, it calls on, we all belong to the United Nations. It is an organization for all of us. SADC, it is all for all of us. And they can surely be, midwives to a free and fair election, especially in the face of a recalcitrant ZANU-PF, a very aggressive ZANU-PF, which will not allow opposition to operate freely. So what I'm saying, Gambakwe, is actually out of some of the things that I have experienced and have known in Zimbabwe.
Okay, Doc, I think let's wrap this up. This conversation is going to be concluded in 2023 when we have seen the results, because I can see that the CCC is adamant. They want to continue to pretend as if magically things are going to happen when they know that the reality on the ground does not allow what they're asking for. So they want to continue to talk about what should be when we know what is. And I think that is the problem which we see right now. When someone talks about their wishes and what they wish would happen, when they certainly know what is there right now that they need to deal with.
But Gambakwe, when you say that, actually it saddens me. It makes me upset when you say that, because you seem to be parroting the same arrogant talk that I hear from ZANU-PF and ZANU-PF spokesperson. And if you should listen to this guy, there is some guy who is the director of information at ZANU-PF. His name escapes me. Very arrogant, and that is the kind of arrogance in which they do not. These are people who are not meant to be statesmen, to be leaders of countries, to be proper leaders with people at heart. But what they do is that they become spokespersons of systems which are designed to loot and corrupt a country, to encourage lawlessness in a country. And then they use their positions where they are to spew arrogant vitriol instead of being pacifiers and say, because if people say this will be ended at 2023, we know that it will end with a lot of bloodshed, because they are the ones who have got stores of guns. They are the ones who control the apparatus of the state, which is only legally allowed to met violence. I mean, to legally met whatever kind of treatment. And, they do it with impunity. That is why we see the courts being used, to continuously incarcerate people who should not be in jail at all. That's why we see the police being used to disrupt political activities, which should be legally held according to the Constitution. And it is the kind of talk which is arrogant, which says that, no, in fact, we know how it will end. But you know what? No one stays in power forever, Gambakwe. And President Mugabe used to be there. Who thought today he would be 6 feet underneath, and who even knew that he would be taken out by a coup? The same leaders, in as much as they can enjoy, they must know that this enjoy can only last for so much. But the politics of the day and the dynamics of the politics change. And when they change, look at Jonathan Moyo, look at Sevia Kasukuwere, look at Mzembe, all of these people who used to be enjoying, power and speaking like they were the kings. Today, they are speaking in corners. This is the nature of politics, and it seems that Zimbabwean politicians never learn. And actually, it is good that we are talking about this. And the only thing I can end with, because I know you are going to end, is that Zimbabweans, this should give them the power and the energy to go out and mass register to vote, and then vote on voting day, and get a deserved change. Because I think we will be just like the Israelites who have been in the wilderness for too long, and this can't go. And people can realize that this cannot continue any longer, because we have gotten to a point where things have, are unbearable. Totally unbearable.
Okay, Doc. It's unfortunate that I can't have you tomorrow when I unpack the video by Apostle Chiwenga, and then later on in the week, I want to unpack Chamisa's trip to Kariba. I really want to do that, and we see what he's been up to and what he's been saying. But I have a feeling that I'm not satisfied with the intellectual level at which we've analyzed the failure of the CCC, because it's a failure. If your country has got inflation of I don't know how many percent, and you've got no currency, and you've got no food on the table, and all these things that you're saying, and you still lose elections, what on earth that needs to happen for you to win an election? I don't get it. This is why I'm saying
there is no intellectual debate about that. It is the facts that should speak to that issue. It is the politics is a function of the reality on the ground, Gambakwe. It is at some point it stops being an intellectual debate. That's why sometimes intellectuals become armchair critics or supporters of particular views, and they fail to realize that sometimes reality exists. I've given you the reality of underdevelopment of rural areas, where there is lack of healthcare at all, where there is lack of proper education, where there is lack of infrastructural development, no electrification at all. And then I've given you the reality that politicians then go back there. The same politicians who these people vote for, they go with food handouts, with a 2 kg packet of rice, and they sway these people who are already in abject poverty to vote for them. And like I'm saying, that's the politicians like the ones we have in Zimbabwe, who holds degrees in violent politics, in dishonest politics. They know that that kind of politics that is how their elections are won. So only and until the political, the voter in the rural areas is educated, which is why ZEC is refusing voter education in those areas, which is why the police allow ZANU-PF, thugs to kuita madiro ajojina vachibloka road blocks and all that kind of stuff. That's why they allow it. And you have never heard that anyone is arrested. And because they know that's where their bread and butter is. They know they will lose an election if the CCC is allowed to enter there. So, Gambakwe, the politics in the rural areas today is not a function of an intellectual debate. I don't need an intellectual debate there. I only need facts on the ground and tell you how those particular facts affect what is happening in the rural areas.
Okay. It's nice having you, Doc. And everywhere I went, this weekend was the West. Like everywhere I went in Harare, everyone is saying Dr. Mutenheri, and it's very interesting to me. I cannot believe it. I'm literally telling you, like, every place I went to, the sweepers, the cleaners, the people work at receptions, it's as if they'd seen me for the first time, and everyone was like, who is that Dr. Mutenheri? I think when you go to Harare, you're going to have a lot of trouble walking in town because people love you so much. And obviously, I told you that I'm going to be selecting the candidate that we're going to be campaigning for in 2023. So on 1 January 2023, I'm going to make an announcement here of the candidate that I'm going to be campaigning for. I have gone to Zimbabwe. I have been around. I've deliberately done certain things. And now I've understood. I now know which candidate I'm going to be campaigning for. And that candidate is going to win when I campaign for them. So take it from me. 1 January 2023. Get it from me.
So when you are busy campaigning, what would some of us be doing, Gambakwe?
You don't know the candidate yet. But
Okay.
I can tell you that when we put 100% of our energy behind a person, I'm going to literally live here and I'm going to go to Zimbabwe and we'll make it our job to make that candidate win. And I know which one it is, which one I've decided now, based on all the facts that I've been collecting. I now know which candidate we need to campaign for. And obviously, I'll invite you, Doc, so that you can be here. I've been telling you this for a long time.
No, all the best. And I can't wait for the 1st of January. And then I will hear. I mean, probably me and you should teach some out there how political contestation can happen, whether your candidate would be similar to mine or it will be different. I think my friendship with you will continue, Gambakwe.
Thank you very much, Doc, and good night.
Uyo uko kuno apo pano mamuona kere nai anovura meso anovura nzeve anogaya marigi Don't come, but I'm